In 2024, the United States brought a missile system to the Philippines. It was called Typhon. It can fire Tomahawk cruise missiles, the kind that can reach far beyond the Philippine coastline. And here's the strange part. The Philippines says it does not host permanent US bases. The United States says these are not bases, but China treats them like a threat, and critics say they function like bases. So how does a country with no permanent US bases become a place where American missile systems can appear? That is the question. What counts as a US base now? To answer that question, we have to go back to the last time everyone agreed what a US base actually looked like. In 1991, a base was easy to see. It had a fence, it had a gate, it had an American flag, it had permanent American troops, and it had a whole town built around it. Clark Air Base and Subic Bay were massive, highly visible pieces of American geography in Asia. Removing those jobs was not a simple decision. Keeping them meant jobs, money, and protection. Removing them meant sovereignty, dignity, and a break from a foreign-dominated past. Then, Mount Pinatubo erupted and heavily damaged Clark. The Cold War was ending. And when the Philippine Senate finally voted, it was as close as it could be. 12 senators said no to the bases, 11 said yes. That one vote margin started the final withdrawal. Clark was handed back in 1991, Subic followed in 1992. And to make sure the old system didn't quietly return, the Philippines built a legal wall. Article 18, Section 25 of the Constitution. The Constitution did not ban every foreign military presence forever. But after the old bases agreement expired, it made foreign bases, troops, or facilities much harder to bring back. They would need to pass strict constitutional conditions, including Senate concurrence. That exemption is exactly why the EDCA legal fight matters. If America was going to return, it had to return in a form that could survive that wall. When the US base closed, the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty survived. The paper promised to defend each other didn't die, it just lost its physical address. The first bridge came with the Visiting Forces Agreement signed in 1998 and approved by the Philippine Senate in 1999. But by the 2010s, the map demanded something more. In 2012, Scarborough Shoal showed the Philippines how hard it was to face China at sea without stronger support. In 2013, Typhoon Haiyan showed how uniquely useful US military logistics could be after a massive disaster. In 2014, a new agreement arrived carrying both arguments at once: defense and disaster response. If you open the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, you find the redesign. Agreed locations, not Clark, not Subic, not US base. EDCA defines this category as Philippine-provided facilities that US forces may access and use. The US can preposition equipment. The agreement specifically states that Philippine ownership remains, and it can be ended with 1 year's written notice. And then comes the exact sentence that lets the agreement survive the constitutional wall built after 1991. Not to establish a permanent military presence or base in the territory of the Philippines. The base did not return as a flag, it returned as a sentence. Critics immediately took that sentence to the Supreme Court. They argued EDCA was a base by another name and therefore needed to go through the Senate as a new treaty. But the government has a real argument. The government's argument is not that nothing changed. The argument is that the sites remain Philippine facilities. The US presence is rotational, Philippine ownership remains, and EDCA can be terminated under its terms. That is why officials say these are not US bases. The court agreed with the government. It did not say EDCA was nothing. It said EDCA could stand because it operated within the older Mutual Defense Treaty and Visiting Forces Agreement. So legally, the old bases did not return, but the question did not disappear. It basically moved from law to geography. Now watch what happens when you take that legal sentence and put it on a map. The old bases were built for permanence. The new network is built for movement. By 2023, the map expanded to 9 sites. And the geography tells you exactly what this network is for. The northern doors point directly toward Taiwan. The western doors face the highly contested West Philippine Sea. But on the ground, this map looks very different. Take Santa Ana, Cagayan. On a strategy map, it is a crucial dot near Taiwan. But on the ground, it is a town. It has fishermen, roads, markets, and schools. And local officials, including then Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba, publicly opposed the sites, warning that the province could become a target. For Washington, this is axis. For Manila, this is deterrence. And for Cagayan, this is a town that may become part of someone else's war map. At places like Basa Air Base, the infrastructure is very real. Millions of dollars for disaster relief warehouses, command centers, and runway improvements. But this is where the dramatic map hits reality. In early 2026, the Philippine Defense Secretary admitted that US use of these sites was still only marginal. Why? Because access on paper is not the same as access in real life. A dot on a map is easy. A usable military site is harder. You need land rights. You need local permissions. You need roads, storage, fuel, runways, and infrastructure that may not exist yet. The alliance had solved one problem, legality, but it had not fully solved another problem, which is usability. America was back on paper, but paper is not a runway. And yet, this is why access still matters. Because access does not have to look like a permanent base to become militarily important. Remember the missile system from the beginning? In 2024, the US deployed the Typhon missile system to the Philippines for joint exercises. That does not prove every EDCA site is a US base, and it does not mean Typhon was a permanent garrison. It proves something narrower, but still important. Once a foreign military has access to facilities, exercises, storage, infrastructure, and local operating space, it can bring serious capability into the country without owning the base. This is why the word access matters. Access is not just a legal category. In a crisis, access can become firepower. So after looking at the law, the map, the local reality, and the missiles, what is the verdict? What counts as a US base now? Legally, no, it is not a US base. Physically, it looks nothing like the sprawling American towns of Clark and Subic. But strategically, a network has been built that performs some of the same functions that bases used to perform, but in a newer, lighter, more flexible form. The Philippines did not bring back Clark and Subic. It allowed America to return in pieces. The US base did not come back as a place. It came back as permission, infrastructure, and a network. No permanent US base, real American military power.